Taking only my valuables, I dash out of the house, running down the busy streets towards the train station. I run up the stairs of the station. At the platform, I wait for the train to my hometown, as I try to suppress my anxiety. I look around nervously to see if anyone is following me, but I don't even know what I'm running from. I don't know why I've had to give up on the honeymoon I was looking forward to and have ended up being forced to run. But I am trying to flee from this town, as I trusted my husband telling me to run. My name is Megan. I'm an office worker who just turned 30. Despite always feeling like a newcomer, I found myself in a position to teach others before I knew it, leading a busy life. I have a fiancé, Bob, and we're getting married next year. Bob is my colleague at work and 3 years younger. He's so mature and reliable that my colleagues often tease me, saying, "We can't tell who's older." He's a man who commands trust from superiors and subordinates alike, handles household chores flawlessly, and I think he's an ideal partner for marriage. Except for one thing. One weekend, we needed to visit my in-laws' house together. As we open the door to the living room, 2 women are relaxing, sipping tea. "Welcome home, Bob." "Welcome back, Bobby." Ignoring me completely, the women greet him with sparkling smiles, and Bob sighs. "Why is Catherine here again?" "Well, Catherine is like a daughter to us, right?" "Right, Mom?" "Oh, if I become Bobby's wife, I'll really be your daughter." "Oh, how wonderful." Bob sighs again as my mother-in-law and Catherine start giggling and making a fuss. I was filled with the urge to go home right then and there. Catherine is a neighbor of my in-laws and Bob's childhood friend. They've been close since they were babies up until high school. Catherine has beautiful eyes and a slender figure, and with her expertise in acting cute, she's the type of girl that men can't leave alone. For some reason, she's fixated on Bob. And it started right after Bob told his parents about our engagement. She's been aggressively texting Bob, inviting him out for drinks, and whispering things like, "I'll feel sad if you get married," and "Didn't you propose to me when we were little?" I felt uneasy at Catherine's assertiveness and asked Bob if he was interested in his cute childhood friend. To that, he made a disgusted face. "She juggled 5 guys at once in the soccer team in high school. In college, she seemed to only date men who had girlfriends or wives. I'm too scared to marry a woman with no sense of chastity like that." "Well, you're right." I was taken aback by Catherine's lack of fidelity, but relieved to know that Bob was not swayed by her. But my mother-in-law is on Catherine's side. She's trying to push me out by flaunting her closeness with Catherine. Apparently, she doesn't like me because I'm older than her son, taller, and work too hard for a woman. She seems to be unaware of Catherine's wildness and thinks that Catherine, who at first glance appears elegant and obedient, would be easy to handle and boast about as a daughter-in-law. Because of those two, we faced the worst possible experience at our wedding, a month later. Unbelievably, Catherine, who wasn't even invited, showed up at the reception. And she wore a pure white dress, which of course only the bride is supposed to wear. Of course, it wasn't as lavish as a bridal gown, but the fact that it was white did not change, and she was the center of attention in the venue in many ways. What was even scarier was that during the reception, she had the audacity to sit at the family table where my mother-in-law was. During our slideshow and even during our friends' speeches, I couldn't help but be bothered by her chatting it up with my mother-in-law. When they approached our table at one point, my husband argued with them as he tried to hold back his anger. "Catherine, you weren't invited. And you're wearing a white dress and sitting at the family table. What the heck are you thinking? What are you doing, Mom?" "But it's my childhood friend's wedding. I can't not celebrate it. And white matches my skin the best." "Oh, I agree, the white dress looks really good on your fair skin. You look the best in this venue. I requested the seat because you forgot to prepare it. Don't worry, I'm sharing the meal with her." "Ugh." My husband, unable to vent his frustration, looked down in despair. Looking at my father-in-law who was at the family table, he had an apologetic look on his face. Although my father-in-law is a decent man, he's weak-willed and probably got bulldozed over by his wife. We've been eagerly preparing and looking forward to this day for nearly a year. It's so frustrating I feel like crying, but if I cry now, it will only please these two. I'm not going to show them my tears. When I raised my face and smiled at Catherine, I saw the corners of her eyes twitch. Coming to celebrate even though you weren't invited. Catherine, you're really thoughtful of your friends, aren't you? Huh? Catherine grimaced. And it's so nice of you to share half your meal. Please do share half of your favorite filet mignon as well. My mother-in-law's eyes wandered. Oh, it's almost time for me to change outfits, so please step back. I'm sorry I'm so busy. I mean, I am the main event after all. With that said, and showing a calm smile, the attendant who was with me said, "Can we please let other people take pictures with the newlyweds, please?" And kindly moved them out of our way. I was grateful for her excellent work. Catherine glared at me for a moment with demonic eyes, but then immediately plastered on a cutesy Aita-like smile and left. I'm sorry I'm not the weak woman who would cry and wail. Thanks to the excellent attendant and the staff, the reception turned out all right. I was exhausted, but aside from those two, I received heartfelt blessings from everyone else, and was able to fully appreciate the happiness. We didn't start living together right after our marriage. Since job transfers are announced at the end of the fiscal year, we thought it would be safer to find a new home afterwards. So, for our honeymoon trip planned 2 weeks after the wedding, we each planned to leave from our own homes and meet up at the airport. Once we start living together, there'll be fewer chances for rendezvous, so I thought it'd be fun to do something that feels like we're still dating. The destination for our honeymoon is Italy. My mind was filled with the allure of Italy, especially it being my first overseas trip. I was thrilled and excited each day leading up to it. However, my excitement was about to be ruined by the two. On the day of the honeymoon, while I was nervously opening and closing the suitcase, checking that I hadn't forgotten anything, I got a call from my husband. Hey, what's up? We're meeting up at 1 p.m., right? I'm sorry. Huh? Contrary to my easygoing self, my husband screams in a desperate voice. We have to cancel the honeymoon. Please, don't come to the meetup spot. What? Listen, don't leave the apartment. No, actually leave right now and go back to your parents' home. Please. Wait a minute, what's going on? I'm sorry, I'll explain later. Just leave right now. Stunned, I stare at the phone after being abruptly disconnected. I have no idea what's going on, but my good mood has suddenly gone down the drain after hearing my husband being frantic. Could he possibly be involved in some sort of crime? The mere thought sends chills down my spine. With my legs about to buckle from all the anxiety, I force myself to move and decide to return to my parents' home as per my husband's instructions. Naturally, my parents are in a panic. Their daughter, who was supposed to be going on her honeymoon, has come home with a pale face. Seeing the disgraceful behavior of my mother-in-law at our wedding, they were even more worried. Even if I wanted to explain the situation, I too was at a loss because I didn't know why I was there. Then, I got a call from an unknown number. I sensed something was not right. It was the police. Fearing that I was indeed involved in a crime, I pressed the answer button with bated breath. The police officer, with a much softer voice than I expected, explained why he had called. We got a call about a couple of women screaming and banging on your apartment door. They seemed quite agitated, so we took them into custody. The older woman claims to be your mother. What? Wait, me? Because I had put the call on speakerphone, my mother, who was listening next to me, let out a bewildered shout. Even the police officer on the other end, hearing my mother's voice, seemed taken aback with a surprised. Huh? I was dumbfounded for a moment, but I soon realized who the older woman was. It was my mother-in-law. And I assume Catherine is with her too. I don't know why they came to my house on the day of our honeymoon, but I'm sure they're the reason why my husband was panicking. Our flight was now hours ago. Because of these people, our honeymoon is gone. No Venice, no pizza, no pasta, no tiramisu, no maritozzo, all of which I was looking forward to. This is awful, just awful. I'm never forgiving them. My mother is sitting right next to me. Those people are complete strangers, I stated firmly to the police officer. Hold on, Megan, it's me. I could hear my mother-in-law screaming from the other end of the phone, but the officer must have sensed something as he smoothly ended the call with, "Thank you for your cooperation." I suspect that my mother-in-law and the others came to my apartment with the intention of causing me harm. How crazy is it that they would claim to be my mother when they're in trouble? Several hours passed. My husband showed up at my parents' house late into the night. As I suspected, the ones who were held by the police were my mother-in-law and Catherine. Somehow they found out that we were meeting at the airport, and they had planned to stop me from going to Italy. Then Catherine planned to run up to my husband, waiting at the airport, and lie to him saying, "Your wife has run off with another man," planning to comfort my distraught husband, and maybe even take my place on our honeymoon and deepen their relationship. I wonder if they really thought they could easily take my place right before departure. It's not like this lie wouldn't be exposed when we returned from our honeymoon. What short-sighted thinking, I thought. But their dreadful plan didn't end there. After stopping me, they intended to take me to a man my mother-in-law had chosen. To my mother-in-law's 50-year-old unemployed brother. For that purpose, they had Catherine's cousins waiting in a car, which gave me chills. If this plan went through with my mother-in-law's brother and me, and my husband and Catherine, my mother-in-law thought we probably wouldn't be able to stay as a couple. It was a terrifying plan. How my husband found out about this terrifying plan was thanks to my father-in-law. He happened to hear my mother-in-law and the others making plans and secretly contacted my husband. My husband was planning to do a little work before heading to the airport, so when my father-in-law called, he was still at work. He immediately called me in a panic. By the time he delegated his work to a colleague and arrived at my apartment, my mother-in-law and the others had apparently already been taken away. After that, he went to the police with my father-in-law, sorted out various things, and finally managed to get here. My husband apologized profusely for the actions of my mother-in-law and the others, and for our canceled honeymoon. He did everything he possibly could, and seeing how worn out he had become in just one day, I couldn't bring myself to blame him. But I will never forgive my mother-in-law and Catherine. I will never forgive them, no matter what. From that day on, I switched from defense to offense. First, I claimed for the cost of repairs to my apartment door that they had destroyed, various fees to the management company, and the cancellation fees for the honeymoon. Apparently, they were enraged thinking I was playing hooky and kicked the door, and even hit it with a nearby fire extinguisher. The door was a new high-end one that I had just replaced, so the repair cost was high. I also had splurged on the honeymoon, so everything in total came close to $20,000. Of course, they resisted. "No, I'm not the one to blame. It's Bob who won't admit he loves me." "All I wanted was your happiness, Bob." "Huh. I get it. Bob, you really are kind. If you're not willing to pay, we're going to court." "Court? If we go to court, we'll also pursue the fact that you tried to kidnap my wife. The costs and the amount claimed are likely to increase." At the mention of the word court, the mother-in-law began to tremble, and Catherine began to sob. Bob, you forgive me, right? I am your precious girl, aren't I?" "I'll never forgive you." "Eek!" Catherine let out a small shriek at the cold glare of my husband. "But I love you so much. It's cruel. You do love me too, don't you, Bob?" "There's no way I could love a woman who casually dates 5 guys at once or goes out with a married man." What? 5 guys?" The mother-in-law looks at Catherine in shock. I also back up my husband. "You say you love Bob, but you only started saying that after he and I got engaged, right? Even if you're not interested in a man, You suddenly want him when he's someone else's. You! The mother-in-law glares at Catherine. She must have hit a nerve. Catherine's eyes dart around in panic. Then she points at my mother-in-law and shouts, "You're the main culprit! She tried to use me because she didn't like her daughter-in-law. Oh my! You're trying to pin the blame on me. Bob, this woman led me astray. I tried to stop this terrible thing." What? The two begin to argue fiercely, as if they are about to grapple with each other. The two of them, who had been so friendly, have suddenly broken up. What a fragile friendship. In the end, Catherine's parents and the father-in-law intervened, and it was decided to split the claim amount exactly in half. Catherine's parents, who had not noticed their daughter's disgraceful behavior at all, were very apologetic. We brought in a lawyer and filed a restraining order for Catherine and the mother-in-law. Of course, the mother-in-law refused in tears, but their plan was so malicious even though it was foiled. Neither I nor my husband intended to forgive them. 3 years later, we were living peacefully with our newborn child when a man visited our home. The man, who was stylishly dressed in an expensive suit, introduced himself as Catherine's fiancé. I went back to Catherine's parents' house to say hello, and I happened to meet one of her classmates who told me, wasn't she supposed to steal Bob? Oh, my husband, hearing Catherine's name for the first time in a long time, face palms. The classmate Catherine and her fiancé met must have attended our wedding and seen Catherine's disgrace. I thought it was a joke, but I was concerned about Catherine's pale face. I'm sorry, but I had it investigated. You and Catherine were childhood friends, but you're not dating now, are you? Of course not. We've never even dated. When my husband emphatically said this, the fiancé looked relieved. But she might be dating someone other than me. What? The Catherine I know is the type who dates a different guy every day of the week. What? Even though she wasn't invited to our wedding, she showed up wearing a white dress and brazenly sat at the family table. No, no way. I think if you're going to investigate, you should widen the scope, not just me. All right. Catherine's fiancé responded in a faint voice, then staggered away from our house. It seemed they really did carry out an investigation afterward, and Catherine's history with men embarrassingly came to light. It turns out Catherine's fiancé was the son of a somewhat prominent CEO, and the entire family was furious at Catherine, who had falsely portrayed herself as a chaste woman. Apparently, she had been dating several men while engaged, and not only was the engagement called off, but she's also apparently being sued for damages. If she hadn't let her desire to steal someone else's man get in the way of our wedding, she might have made it to a life of luxury without anyone finding out. Well, her true nature would have been exposed eventually. But this is way too much poetic justice. My mother-in-law seems to be fretting over not being able to meet her first grandchild. She's apparently watching with bated breath as my father-in-law cheerfully brings baby supplies over to our house. There have been several instances where baby clothes were sent via my father-in-law, but I sent them back without even looking at them. Catherine was dumped by her fiancé and drowning in debt, and my mother-in-law was unable to see her beloved son and grandchild. Right now, them being neighbors, they seem to get in a catfight every time they see each other. The neighbors who have to witness these ugly disputes are certainly not enjoying it. Hey Megan, how about we visit the Miami Seaquarium on the second day, and on the third day, let's head to Key West. I heard there's the overseas highway. Sounds beautiful. I also want to eat seafood at a Cuban restaurant. I want to swim with the fishies. This year, as our son turns 3, we're planning to take the honeymoon we never got to have. Our destination is Florida. The main goal is to show our son dolphins. Of course, we also plan on trying all the food specialties like Cuban food. We haven't given up on Italy, which we had to put off because our son was still too young. It may be far off in the future, but if it's with my husband, we can make it happen. All because I feel so content and happy every day. Your cooking makes me want to vomit. Flora, my son's wife, whispered this only for me to hear, but I ignored it. Today is my grandson Frederick's birthday party, and we're planning to celebrate it grandly with relatives invited. I didn't want to be swayed by just Flora's opinion. Without minding her, I carried a large platter with meatloaf next. Seeing this, Flora stood up and started yelling loudly. Seriously, what is this? You expect us to eat that? Such tasteless, vulgar food, I don't want to eat it. I've had enough. Flora grabbed the large platter of meatloaf from my hands and slammed it onto the table with force. The relatives looked at Flora with surprised faces. The dish shattered into pieces, and the scattered food stained the clothes of the relatives, who started angrily blaming Flora. My son David also stood up and put his hand on Flora's shoulder to calm her down. Hey, Flora. Calm down. You be quiet. Why are there so many country bumpkins here? I'm so sick of it. I feel like vomiting. I shouldn't have come. She then picked up a plate of food left on the table and threw it at me. I felt more disgusted than angry at Flora's behavior. You seem to be mistaken, but I didn't make this. Huh? Then who made this crap? It was me. The voice was so loud it seemed impossible it came from an elderly person, and the glass doors shook. I'm Ashley. Born into an ordinary family, I spent my life without any particular incidents. I did well enough in studies, so I didn't have trouble getting into college. In university, surrounded by good friends, I had a fun college life and graduated without issue. I found a job at a local company, and during my busy days, I met the man who would become my husband. It seemed we both had love at first sight. We started dating immediately, and about a month later, decided to get married. My husband was a wonderful person, and I was very proud of him. Our family and friends blessed us, and we had our wedding ceremony without delay, and soon after, I gave birth to our son David. It was my first time parenting, but it wasn't hard because my mother Morgan helped. I thought about how smooth and trouble-free my life had been. But maybe I was getting complacent. Gradually, I began to find life boring. That's when people tend to fall into life's pitfalls. It started when my husband's returns home began to get late. Then his business trips unnaturally increased, and he was away from home more and more. I tried to ignore the doubts swelling in my heart, clinging to the sweet illusion that he wouldn't do such things, but the reality was cruel. I found out he was having affairs with several women. When one of their husbands came to confront him at our home. At first, my husband didn't admit his guilt, but as evidence piled up, he cried like a child. Eventually, we divorced, and I became a single mother, raising David. At that moment, I felt as if my life had ended. I had lived without hardships, never stumbling, so I had no strength to resist. Because I was complacent, I couldn't even consult with friends. I desperately wanted help, but weird pride got in the way. However, parents are there to help in such times. My mother didn't blame or comfort me. She just said, "Ashley, you have me and your friends. But David only has you." Over the phone. With those words, I resolved to raise David properly. To do that, I decided to throw away all my silly pride, rely on others, and raise David with the help of many people. My son never had serious injuries or illnesses, and his grades were excellent. He went on to high school, the local university, and graduated safely. He got a job in a local company, moved out, and became independent. When I looked around David's empty room, I couldn't help but cry. There was loneliness, but more than that, a sense of accomplishment. But there was one thing I worried about for David. Like me, he had never faced any major failures. If he encountered a significant setback in life, could he endure it? That was my only concern, but I was prepared to support David when the time came. After David became independent, I terminated the house lease and decided to return to my parents' house. It was too big for one person and felt lonely, and with my father passed away, I was worried about my elderly mother, my mother being alone. But returning home, I realized my worries were unnecessary. My mother was as energetic as ever, bustling around.
Ashley, if you're bored, get moving. Make some money.
All right, I got it. In this way, it feels more like I'm the one being taken care of by my mother. Still, she seemed happy I came back, and when there was no work, we'd spend time together, reminiscing about the old days. A short while after David became independent, he called me.
Mom, it's been a while. How are ya?
I'm fine, thanks. What's up all of a sudden? Is something wrong? Since David had lived at home and rarely stayed out, having a phone conversation felt somewhat fresh.
I was thinking of spending my summer vacation at home.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Though, don't expect any special treatment. Despite saying that, I was really happy inside. I wanted to ask about his job and how his social relationships were going.
Then, I'll call you again when I'm coming back.
Sure, I'll be looking forward to it. Be careful on your way here. After hanging up, I immediately started planning in my head. The room over there should be fine, but it needs to be cleaned up. And I need to think about what to cook too. As I was talking to myself, my mother approached me.
David's coming back? We'll need to prepare quite a bit then.
My mother seemed motivated knowing her grandson was coming. Mom, he's my son, so I'll do the preparations.
What are you talking about? That boy loves what I make. I absolutely want to make it for him.
Once this happens, my mother won't listen to anything else. We prepared the room so David could relax comfortably and went shopping for groceries. Having something to look forward to is a good thing. It makes the heart light, and somehow, the scenery around seems brighter. And finally, the summer vacation arrived. We went to pick up David from the station and headed home. Seeing David after a long time, he had matured, turning into a full-fledged man. My mother was waiting eagerly at home. We rejoiced at our reunion. The dining table was filled with dishes made by my mother and I. We talked and caught up while eating, and time flew by quickly. When the conversation settled down a bit,
David, have you found someone nice?
My mother suddenly asked. David blushed and looked down. Maybe he really had found someone. The thought made my heart race uncontrollably. David, don't tell me you really have.
Yeah, actually, I've recently started dating someone.
My mother and I were overjoyed and cheered loudly. The conversation then centered around his girlfriend. David, though embarrassed, answered our questions properly. It seems she works at the same company, and they hit it off right away.
Actually, I came back to tell you that. Eventually, I'm thinking of marrying her.
Really? Oh, that makes me so happy.
What a wonderful summer vacation this turned out to be.
Next time, I'll bring her over. I want to introduce her, he said shyly, looking somewhat young to me, reminding me he's always my son. After a delightful summer vacation, half a year later, in winter, it happened. As promised, David brought his girlfriend to our home. The outside was covered in snow, a stark contrast to the summer vacation. My mother and I sat facing David and his girlfriend with serious expressions. All right, this is my girlfriend, Flora. She greeted us.
Nice to meet you. I'm Flora.
Her first impression was of a polite lady. She seemed a bit shy, but her words were careful, and her expression was kind. I liked Flora right away.
Thank you for choosing David.
Well, sure. At first, our conversation was a bit awkward. But after a while, the tension eased, and we all started to enjoy the conversation. Seeing them sitting together, I thought they really suited each other. And so I teased them.
You two really are a good match. Why not get married soon?
But this wasn't a joke. I genuinely thought they should marry. They were embarrassed, but they didn't seem to mind.
No, Mom, if you say so, maybe we should just go ahead and get the marriage certificate now.
Hee, shall we go get it now? We joked like this. Then, after a while, the two of them got married. The wedding ceremony was very glamorous. and I felt incredibly happy. But there was a small worry in my heart. For some reason, I kept remembering the time I divorced my husband. Even though I know David's different. And Flora is a wonderful person too. Yet, I couldn't shake off this unpleasant feeling. Contrary to my worries, their married life was going smoothly. Soon, Flora got pregnant and Frederick was born. Being my first grandchild, he was so adorable. Looking at Frederick, I thought my worries were finally disappearing. But it was around that time things started to get strange. After giving birth, Flora somehow started to avoid me. I initially thought it was because she was not feeling well after the birth. Yet, when I tried to help her out,
Ashley, don't touch Frederick,
she would scream loudly. And not just that. Every time I tried to do something,
don't. I'll take care of it. Ashley, don't interfere. Why are you doing things on your own? Stop it. Enough is enough.
She would snap at me, leaving me utterly confused. Sure, nobody likes to be meddled with, but her reaction seemed a bit excessive. It felt as if she thought of me as some virus or something, which truly hurt me. So, I decided to distance myself from Flora for a while. I thought she might calm down, and things would return to normal after some time. Time passed, but Flora never contacted me. Despite having my first grandchild, I couldn't hold him. I wanted to see Frederick's face and have a good talk with David and Flora. But they never came to visit me. My mother seemed somewhat concerned too. I thought about calling them myself, but recalling Flora's yelling made it hard for me to gather the courage. However, I couldn't stand it anymore and decided to visit Flora. Of course, I knew showing up at her house without an appointment was rude, but I wanted to see them so badly. I prepared immediately and headed for Flora's house. I knew it was in a residential area near the station, so I drove there, following the map app. It was the middle of summer, and the trees in the park were lush. I reminisced about the summer vacation when David came back. I was happy when I heard about Flora, but I never imagined things would turn out like this. Thoughts of my husband flickered through my mind. Get out of my head already. Mumbling to myself, I kept driving. A few minutes later, I arrived at Flora's house. After parking my car in front, I walked towards her house. I could feel my heartbeat. And that's how nervous I was. I pressed the doorbell of Flora's house. After a while, Flora's voice came through the intercom.
Who is it? Flora, it's me, Ashley. Sorry for showing up unannounced.
I tried to speak gently, hoping not to upset Flora. But such consideration was wasted on Flora. As soon as she heard my voice, she became hostile.
What? Why are you here?
I was worried you might be having a hard time.
Shut up! Who asked you to come? Leave!
But I wanted to see Frederick's face, and…
Shut up! Shut up! If you don't leave, I'll call the police.
No matter what I said, Flora wouldn't listen. Fearing she would call the police, I had no choice but to leave. Walking back alone, I headed towards a nearby park. I wanted to see Frederick even for a moment, so I thought of calling Flora to persuade her. It was a hot time in summer, so the park was deserted. I sat on a bench in the shade and called Flora. Hello, Flora?
What is it now? You are creepy.
Please, I just want to talk.
Shut up. There's nothing to talk about.
Flora was hysterical as ever. I tried not to be overwhelmed by her voice, attempting to persuade her. I just want to spend a little time together.
Give me a break. I'm so fed up. Let me tell you, I've hated you, Ashley, from the start.
Flora threw such harsh words at me, it was hard to believe she was the same person. Hate? Did I do something?
It's your existence. It's just so lonely. That's why you have a divorce history.
That's irrelevant, isn't it? I was outraged, as her words were far too cruel.
Even if you hate me, we're family since you married, aren't we? That's no way to talk. Family? Don't make me laugh. I didn't want to work, so I just wanted to get married quickly and be supported by a husband. It just happened to be David.
Oh, stop it. Saying such things, you're the worst, you know?
Shut up. Shut up. Don't you ever call me again. Go spend your remaining years in the countryside.
With that, Flora hung up. I couldn't move for a while. Shocked by how terrible she was and angry at myself for not seeing through her, but it was too late for regrets. Feeling down, I left the park, got into my car, and drove home. I thought about contacting David, but I didn't want to burden him with unnecessary worries since he was busy with work. I asked my mother to listen to my complaints. However, I vented to my mother. Time will change things. We just have to trust the person David chose, my mother said reassuringly. So, I decided to be patient. Time passed, and Frederick was about to turn 3. I called David. David? It's been a while. Ah, Mom, sorry I haven't been in touch. I've been really busy. It's okay. But I want to see Frederick too, and next month is his birthday, right? I'd love to celebrate it at our house. Frederick would love that. Let me see if I can arrange some time off. David was unaware of what had happened between me and Flora. So, he readily agreed to my suggestion. I could hear David and Flora talking in the background over the phone. She seemed reluctant to see me. But after some persuasion from David, it sounded like she agreed. Flora's okay with it. So, we'll come over next month. Great. I'm so happy. Can we invite the relatives too? Make it a big celebration? Of course. Sorry to trouble you. No trouble at all. I'll be looking forward to it. I was thrilled to finally see David and his family, so I immediately shared the news with my mother. So, they're coming back? Then I'll have to cook up a storm, my mother said, eager to get started. I enthusiastically contacted relatives to invite them to Frederick's birthday party. Time flew, and soon it was the day of the party. It was spring, and colorful flowers bloomed around our house. As relatives arrived, David's family did too. Frederick, now 3, walked in on his own. My, Frederick, nice to meet you. I'm your grandmother. I bent down to get a good look at Frederick's face. But he seemed frightened by the unfamiliar face and hid behind Flora. Oh dear, I'm sorry. That must have scared you. Don't worry. He'll get used to it soon. That's all right. You must be tired. Please, rest inside. David and his family headed to the entrance. All the relatives were smiling. Only Flora was glaring at me. It seemed our silent conflict was ongoing, but I tried not to mind. Especially since Frederick was so adorable. The living room had a large table set up for the gathering of relatives. I brought out the dishes my mother and I had prepared. Man, it's been a while since I've had Grandma and your cooking. I'm gonna eat a lot. Frederick looked curiously at the food, but Flora frowned and looked down. As I approached, she whispered so only I could hear. Just the thought of eating something you made makes me want to vomit. I was a bit angry, but chose to ignore her. I didn't want to be swayed by just Flora's opinion. Flora seemed even more upset than before for ignoring her, and with a louder voice, she said, I just don't feel like eating. Then, the relatives looked at Flora with puzzled expressions. Hey, don't say things like that. Are you tired or something? David also seemed to feel it was not good, trying to calm Flora down with a joke. Flora turned away with a sullen face. I didn't mind and carried over a large platter with meatloaf on it. Upon seeing this, Flora stood up and began to yell loudly.
What is this? You expect me to eat that?
The relatives looked at Flora in surprise. But she, paying no attention to them, shouted loudly.
I don't want to eat such tasteless, vulgar food. I've had enough.
Flora took the platter of meatloaf from my hands and slammed it onto the table with force. The dish shattered, and the scattered food soiled the clothes of the relatives, who angrily blamed Flora. David stood up, trying to calm Flora by placing his hand on her shoulder. However, she still glared at me.
This is peasant food. It's not fit for humans to eat. It's fish feed.
Hey, Flora. Calm down.
You be quiet. Why are there so many country bumpkins here anyway? I'm so sick of it. I wish I hadn't come.
She grabbed a plate of food left on the table and threw it at me. Her behavior was far from sane. I felt more creeped out than angry at such a sight of Flora.
It seems you're misunderstanding, but I didn't make this. Huh? Then who made this crap?
It was me. My mother answered loudly to Flora's question.
Really, what's all the fuss about? Ruining a perfectly good meal. Are you even a parent, Flora?
My mother's voice was so loud, it seemed impossible for someone of advanced age, making the glass doors tremble. However, Flora was unyielding.
I don't care who made it, don't serve such vulgar food. What kind of harassment is this?
Listen, this meatloaf is David's favorite. Your behavior is far more rude.
Shut up! The vulgar ones are you guys. Ignorant country bumpkins.
Frederick finally reached his limit of tolerance and burst into tears. David hurriedly took Frederick to another room. Yet, Flora didn't care at all. She continued to spout her incomprehensible theories to the relatives. I was truly furious with Flora. Everyone had adjusted their schedules for today, and buying the ingredients cost a significant amount of money. And preparing the meal was also a lot of work. I couldn't forgive Flora for ignoring all these efforts. I slapped Flora hard in earnest. The sound echoed in the room, and Flora, holding her cheek, stared at me in shock. Then my mother shouted,
I will not accept you as my granddaughter-in-law.
The relatives around probably felt the same, all staring silently at Flora. But Flora became even more hysterical, beyond help. Her eyes bloodshot, spitting saliva, she no longer listened to anyone's voice. Then David ran back, grabbed Flora by the shoulders, and shook her.
Enough! If you hate it here so much, leave right now.
David must have been thoroughly fed up with Flora's hysteria. Even Flora, regaining her senses, stormed out of the house, got into her car, and drove away with a burst of speed. Afterward, the chaos ensued. We had to clean up the scattered food on the floor. But the angry relatives were still causing a commotion. The birthday party turned into a chaotic situation. However, it was my mother's words that broke the chaos.
Everyone, be quiet. If you have time to talk, help clean up.
Realizing this, everyone quietly began to clean. Luckily, the damage to the food was minimal, and there was still plenty left, including another platter of meatloaf. Frederick had stopped crying, so he rejoined everyone. Before we started the birthday party again, I deeply apologized to the relatives. I'm truly sorry, everyone. I apologize for the trouble caused, despite you all gathering here. David also apologized deeply next to me. Please let me apologize as well. I'm sorry for the rude remarks Flora made. However, no one blamed us. Instead, they praised us for speaking up. I'm really grateful to all the relatives. With our apologies, the matter with Flora was put to rest, and we all enjoyed the meal and chatted happily. Frederick ate his meatloaf with relish, making my mother very pleased. The relatives doted on Frederick, calling his name affectionately. Despite the difficulties, the birthday party ended smoothly, and everyone dispersed. We saw off each relative one by one until only 4 of us were left in the house.
There's still cleaning up to do, right? Let me help.
It's okay. You must be worried about Flora. Why don't you head back? Upon hearing Flora's name, David sighed deeply. Actually, I've been troubled by Flora's behavior for a while now. I thought she was just tired being postpartum, but it never improved. David gazed at Frederick playing with my mother. After pondering for a while, he finally spoke up. After this incident, I've made a decision. I need to reevaluate my relationship with Flora. I might even consider divorce. I wasn't surprised at all. In fact, it seemed inevitable to me. It can't be helped. I thought I was living a smooth life, and then I got divorced. These things happen in life. Thinking back on my past made me a bit sad. I worried that because I had divorced, David might end up doing the same. Well, that's true. But what worries me is Frederick. The custody will probably go to Flora. There's no use worrying about that. What will be, will be. David and I looked at each other and smiled. Somehow, an unfounded confidence that everything would work out filled our hearts. Within a month, David and Flora had divorced. I was worried about the custody, but Flora said,
I don't want him. He'll just get in the way of me remarrying.
And easily gave up her parental rights. She left David's house and disappeared somewhere. So, her whereabouts are unknown. I decided to move in with David to support him, as he was busy with work. David might remarry someday, but he thought it was better to focus on work for now. My mother stayed at the family home due to old age. However, we make sure to visit the family home several times a year. She looks forward to these visits and seems to be keeping busy. Frederick was lonely for a while after Flora left. But he quickly got used to me, and now he seems very happy. Despite everything, we're living very happy days now.